Hello, my beautiful pile 2. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am filming this the day after I filmed the intro and pile 1. I don't always have time to film all the piles on the same day. And I also don't always have the time to film during daylight hours, so where the sunlight was blessing our table on all my previous recordings that I've done so far, we're going to have to see how using the ring light goes today. So thanks for bearing with me. I hope that the visual quality will still be sufficient. So that disclaimer said, let's go ahead and take a look at what our first message is for pile 2. I set aside the significator cards for group 2 and group 3 yesterday, and I have not flipped them over. I just kept them in a safe place. So let's see what the energy oracle deck has for us to start with. Third chakra. Excuse me. Archangel Chamuel. Pardon me if there's another way to say that name. That's how I've been saying it. This is such a beautiful card, in my opinion, because there's this power stance, but also this sense of peace. And there's this warlike face as well as the power stance. But also, in my experience of this card, this sense of peace radiating from it. And I love this because even before I started recording, I had a specific set of spirit guides joining me and telling me, giving me the sense that this group was going to be, this pile, this recording was going to be for the warriors among us. Everyone, of course, is in some sense of their life, some aspect of their life, some version of them. Everyone has warrior aspects they can draw on, but our topic today is still the messages that the collective needs in light of and in response to any feelings that are being stirred up in the individuals among the pile and in the collective of us all regarding the political events that have just occurred at the time of me recording this. So I'm not shocked, but I am pleasantly and delightfully surprised that there are some encouragements for us to bring out our warrior aspects in response to this. There is much to fight for, and I'm being called to use the Lucy Cavendish Foxfire Kitsune Oracle deck next. And I'm being called to pull 3 cards. And I'm sure we'll get into reading more information from this card, but I'm being called to go right into more oracle cards before we do. Okay, so we've got our first 2. I was shuffling a little bit. I don't know if you could hear or see. Let's see. And this is calling out to me as our 3rd one. Okay, let's start with that and see what comes next. We have number 21, watch and listen carefully. Number 7, past lives. And number 4, call forth the waves. I have to laugh at this because the warrior, guardian, and spirit guide that I mentioned, I mentioned a set of spirit guides coming through, but the one that was primarily coming through, that was coming through the loudest, so to speak, is an ocean guardian, not even an ocean guardian, but a deity or divinity who is an embodiment of the ocean and therefore also a protector of the ocean. And he's also a warrior god. My mouth tried to say god and guard at the same time. A warrior god in the Hawaiian tradition, the native Hawaiian tradition. So I'm being called, actually, because of that strong connection, to read the guidebook description for the card meeting of number 4 first, and for us to launch from that launch pad today. So card 4, call forth the waves. There are times when all is tranquil, and beautifully so. And there are times when all is simply too still, and nothing has changed, because nothing has been done. Too much for too long has stayed the same, and now this denizen of the seas of energy which surround the realm of the Kitsune is urging you to call forth the waves and to stir the world around you into action. For there is much to be done and many things which are bringing discontent, and yet all is remaining the same. So much so that it seems that this stasis is natural, simply the way things are. But this being of the sea is here to tell you that this is not how things must remain, and she will show you how to call up the waves of pure energy from within, the emotional energy which sustains and feeds you, the watery energy of memories, and the psyche which gathers strength and pours through the world and lifts up all that has stayed too long hidden so it can be seen and changed with pure raw energy. Call forth the waves now, friend. Raise them high and let us see what power there is in initiating change, being active and courageous, and immersing ourselves in the pouring forth of the energy that has been too long held within, restrained, tethered for no good reason. Call forth the waves, connect to this great primal tidal force, and know that no matter how formidable change may be, it is a living thing, unlike stasis and the quiet of intimidation. Rise up and see who joins you as you dare to take the ride of your own life, and upon the waves that you called up, you shall dance. Know you are a free and powerful being, filled with instinctive energy. Others will rise to join you, and as you do this, your life will be filled with a new and cleansing energy. I'm feeling called also to place my black tourmaline that I had next to me on the screen here. I'm going to place it right over here, a little guardian for our reading. I am amazed and loving the energy from that description and from this card. That right away told me that yes, not only is this a group of warriors that is called to this specific reading, but a group of leaders. And there may be some of you who feel intimidated, who do not yet feel tapped into your own leadership energy. But I don't think this group, this pile, this reading would be for you. I don't think you would be here if you didn't feel, whether secretly or not, some yearning to stand up, step up, go forth and lead. Leadership looks different for everyone who operates in different capacities, in different walks of life. There are leaders who walk the path and call others to follow them. There are leaders who shepherd those in front of them and protect them and guide them from watching their backs. There are leaders who sit in their energy and call others to them, to join them in what they are doing. Leaders who take action and in some way or another bring others into the circle of their action. So there may be ways of leading that you have been intimidated away from doing that are actually calling to you now. There may also be ways of leading that have never occurred to you before. And it may even be that the leadership you have been shown in your life has been associated with abusive authority. That would not be a surprise given the impetus for our reading today. We do see that abuse of authority on a global scale, a social scale, a local scale, and also a family scale. So it may be the time now for you to untangle those definitions of leadership and authority and untangle them from what you think you are capable of being and what you think you should be. It may be time to do some journaling about that, some meditation. Journaling is being highlighted for me. And of course, given the nature of the God deity I was speaking of and of this card, you are absolutely being called to spend time in or near water, especially in water as much as possible. Feel free to use bath time or shower time as a conduit for contacting your own personal truth, your own emotions. Awareness and clarity are significantly energetically emphasized by being in contact with water. But if you do also have natural bodies of water in your vicinity at all, consider making it a point to spend more time with them and to commune with them and the spirits that you have the ability to contact through them. Consider opening up. This is guidance from this deity coming through me now. Open up to the spirits of the rivers, lakes, ponds, and streams around you if you do not have the ocean around you. Each body of water is connected to Source in a specific divine way. And each body of water is also its own unique divine manifestation of Source and has its own unique guidance that is able to be tailored to those who live around it, who draw strength and life force from it, whether they realize it or not. And you are being called, without question, to connect with those beings, connect with those forces and spirits, to inquire what they can offer you and also what you can offer them. It may surprise you. It could look like anything from volunteering to clean up a beach near you or a park, or something that seems completely unrelated to the water's life force on the surface, but is in fact something it would urge you to do for the benefit of the greater universe, as well as for yourself. And I have myself personally been truly amazed by the guidance for my own personal life that water and water spirits have been able to offer me, and the nourishment and cleansing that salt baths and time in the ocean and around natural water can provide you are unparalleled. Definitely consider taking Epsom salt baths. You just need something like 1.5 cups to 2 cups of Epsom salt in your bathtub, depending on how big your bathtub is. You can get Epsom salt at most grocery stores and drugstores. You can order it online. It is relatively inexpensive. Go for the fragrance-free stuff. Don't pollute your body or the water supply with the artificial fragrances that are in even the seemingly natural fragranced products that are on most of the market. Speaking from personal experience here. And salt baths are uniquely excellent at cleansing your energetic body and encouraging the flow of emotion, particularly emotional blockages, similar to how we are speaking of leadership and change that is needed on the global and societal scale due to the political events that inspired me to do this reading, and due to the stagnation that this card's description talks about on a large scale. In the ecosystem of your body, you may also have things that you are used to staying the same in the ecosystem of your emotional and energetic bodies. You may be used to staying the same in various ways that it is no longer serving you. And while there is an energy of unstoppable, fierce flow about this reading, there's also no rush to force yourself into changes. We know, myself and the deity that is present and your spirit guides and your higher self, we all know that the reason you have invested in keeping things the same past their expiration date is because it has kept you safe in some way. So do not make things worse by threatening your own sense of safety, but start to become curious about what you have invested, what status quo you have invested in maintaining in the ecosystems of your relationships, your habits, your internal emotional relationships between different parts of yourself, your relationship with your inner child, your workplace. Start to, whether slowly or in some longer, more rapid fire journaling sessions, whatever works for you, inquire and examine and become curious about what you've invested in maintaining that might no longer serve you, and what parts of you are invested in keeping you from releasing that and replacing it with something else, and how you can show those parts what it is costing you to maintain that status quo. And then from there, what you can do to remove this blockage. It feels a lot like taking, a poison-laced candy out of the hands of a child. Once you show them, once you make them aware, these parts of you, that the thing that they have been taught will sustain them in some way or bring them comfort or relief in some way is actually laced with poison, you can work with them on, okay, how are we going to release this and what are we going to bring in its place? The other part of this description of this card that is calling to me is the know that you are a free and powerful being, which brings us, it connects beautifully. It brings us back to this third chakra, Archangel Camille card. The third chakra is the center of free will and personal power in the body and the energetic system. Of course, that doesn't mean that there aren't any other locuses of those things. You, as an entire being, are full of free will and personal power. There is no part of you that is not powerful and capable of being empowered. But this particular energy center is, what is the right word? It's known for being the center of where you can tap into your free will and your sense of personal power and empowerment. So this reading, awakening yourself to your warrior energies and your leadership energies, is 100% about telling you that it is time to awaken your third chakra and awaken any dormant desires as well as energies that are associated with it. I might link in the description box, if I remember, to a video about the third chakra, and we can go from there. All right. I'm being called to draw from another deck before I move on to reading these cards. I have a feeling there will be a connection in there somewhere. So we're going to pull out this tarot deck for some more information first, before we move on to interpreting the past lives card and the watch and listen carefully card. Spirit guides, is there anything else from what we've spoken about already that needs to come through? Okay, I'm hearing a yes. What is it? Okay, with call forth the waves, there's a calling also to call forth the waves of your own emotion and your own caring. Sorry about being partly on screen with pulling out the cards from this box. It's a beautiful box, and it takes me a few pulls to get all the cards out of it. Yeah, they're showing me someone standing atop the waves. They're showing me like a living image of this figure standing atop the waves of the ocean on her bare feet and pulling with motions of her hands waves out of the ocean and funneling the water, the energy, the light into areas of her life and of the world that need those specific energies and need a cleansing flow of water. And let's see, what are you telling me with this image? When you feel stuck in an energy, or it feels like an energy or an emotion is stuck in you, do not hesitate to simply call forth flow. You don't necessarily have to mentally know what to do with the stuck energy before you start to simply initiate flow. Okay, so they're calling you to run energy through your body. You can look up how to run energy and come across many different meditations and practices, and you could sample a few and just see what practices resonate with you. It may already be something you're familiar with as well, and this is simply reminding you to practice that. But running energy typically involves calling energy up from the earth through your feet, through the small sub-chakras, so to speak, in your feet and legs, into the spine, and up through the crown of the head, and also calling cosmic energy, source energy, sunlight energy, star, moon energy, God energy, whatever relates to you in that way, goddess energy, calling that through the crown of your head and down through your body, feeling it circulate down through your arms and hands, as well as down through your spine, your organs, and your hips, legs, and feet. And there are many, many different visualizations you can practice. And you can practice it as a breathwork meditation as well, feeling your breath travel up and down with the energy that you're running. And you can also visualize water. In particular, this ocean god that I have with me for this reading is offering to you, almost as a service, offering to you connection with the ocean that you can call on when you are cleansing yourself energetically. He's offering to you to call on the ocean waves to cleanse your body as you run energy through it. Imagine the energy that you're running through your body as ocean waves, as that healing, purging salt water. And imagine it effortlessly and soothingly, but also powerfully, clearing through, flowing through your body and your emotions, so that you can use that both to practice awareness, reaching all the nooks and crannies that that ocean water might reach that might not have been touched in a while, but also so you can practice effortlessly receiving and releasing in the same breath. You can practice releasing being more effortless, and releasing resistance by imagining ocean waves or rivers pushing flow into and out of places that feel difficult or challenging or stuck for you. And sort of the other edge of this sword is the first part that I was told when I started channeling this last message from this card, not last, but this message from this card and from this deity, was to call up your own emotions and your own caring, call up how you truly feel, and call up the power of your feeling, your wisdom, your emotion, your caring. Because this is what will lead you, your heart, your caring is what will lead you through difficult times and into what you wish to lead in the world, what you wish to model in the world, lead by example. And it will push you when the going gets tough. This is where you will find your sustenance, is by calling forth your deep and die-hard caring for what you care about. It has been interesting to go back and forth between purely channeling this deity and kind of conversing with them and translating. So I can only hope that I have done a shadow of justice to the powerful nature of this being in this relationship with the ocean. And they're saying that that is all. I can go back to the tarot now. I'm being called to pull the top and the bottom of this deck first. So we have the Nine of Pentacles and the Eight of Pentacles right away. Fascinating. The gold on these is reminding me of the gold coin-like imagery in this card as well. There is... Let's see if we can also shift this so that the lighting isn't blinding you, reflecting off of these tarot cards. Let's see what we can do here. Okay. No, we're being called to do it this way. Okay. So, oh, there's an interesting color mirroring between the pale pink here and the pale pink there. That's going to be interesting to dive into as well. But yes, there is a message with that parallel about your personal power and your access to your free will being your true wealth. And self-mastery, the exercise of free will over all areas of your life. The ability to, personal power is nothing more than the ability to bring about what you want. And the greater your capacity to do that, the greater your personal power, and the greater your true wealth in life. There's also with this a message of health is wealth. This chakra in the body is associated with many, many internal organs, especially the liver. There's a message for some of you to consider liver and gallbladder flushes. I am not a medical professional. You will have to do some research. I always encourage people to check with medical professionals that they do trust, to make sure that any sort of practice is okay for them before they embark on it. But there is a common Andreas Moritz liver gallbladder flush and many variations on it out there. And at first they seem intimidating, but they are not as difficult or troublesome as they seem at first when you haven't done them before. So I would encourage you to consider that especially if you are dealing with any sort of mystery symptoms. That is a strong message coming through from this deity as well, that some of you are dealing with stagnancy in the liver that is affecting the rest of your life, and you would be genuinely amazed, as I have been, to see how much emotional stagnancy is shifted and stagnant, and also how much stagnation in access to your personal power is shifted by bringing the flow of chi, energy, and actual literal liquid and nutrients and fluid and circulation and oxygen to the liver by helping it flush out bile, stones, etc., toxins by doing these flushes. So that is a message for some of you who are open to it or who might be interested. And an encouragement, even if at first you are thinking, I want to shy away from that sounds kind of icky. There's an encouragement of it's not actually that icky, it's not actually that hard. Be patient with yourself. Take it slow when it comes to digesting information about your health, whether it's about the liver flushes or something else. Be patient with yourself, take it slow, and empower yourself with knowledge and practices that you can safely do for yourself to bring the wealth of health into your life and to restore. Actually, ever since this came up, I've been looking back at this card and getting the sense that there is this need to restore the healthy flow among the organs and the chi in your abdomen for some of you. Something I relate to myself. You are definitely not alone. There's nothing wrong with you. But that is something that some of you are being called to, and I'm being told that you will be shocked, actually, how much this affects your energetic health and your general sense of well-being in ways that you would have assumed were not correlated to this at all. The Eight of Pentacles is a card of study, of diligence, and hard work. You can see this being single-minded devotion to their task. There's almost a sense of meditative peace there. It's interesting because there's a little bit of gloominess in the scene, but there's also this beautiful vista and this real sense of serenity. But the main message I am getting from this card is self-mastery is the thing to be devoted to. The deity, the ocean deity I've been working with for this whole reading is clearly going to be channeling with me for this whole reading, and I'm so grateful for it. Thank you. And he is saying very clearly that your access to power is within. And I need to clarify that actually, because I don't mean, oh, the only place where you can get things done is within. Not at all. It is crucial, and this entire reading is clearly calling us to take action, take ownership of our ability to influence our external world and to influence the people around us and our surroundings, and to take ownership of that in a responsible way. And that all starts with self-mastery. If you cannot take responsibility for yourself and master yourself and take control of the things you can control within yourself, rather than constantly fruitlessly trying to control the things that actually no one can control and trying to control out of fear. If you cannot take that responsibility, that ownership, that mastery, that charge and control, then how can you possibly hope to affect change upon the world? And that is how this deity is phrasing it. And I can imagine that for some people that might land, the how could you possibly phrasing might land as a message of like, well, it's futile then, it's all hope is lost. But this is actually meant to be a galvanizing, light a fire under your tushy message of get real with yourself about what you can control and what you can't, and where you have been shying away from taking ownership of mastery of yourself. This is a message of actually, you think you're powerless in some areas where you actually have tremendous power. And that should actually be a relief to you. And it's okay if it also scares you, but it's time. You're ready, is what this message is saying, to face those fears in a way that is gentle and loving to the vulnerable parts of yourself, and that affirms your personal power, your capacity for self-mastery, your capacity to affect change in your own life and in your own reality and world. It is time. Do not shy away from this anymore. Some of you may have things that immediately come to mind as we're speaking of this, areas of your life where you have been shying away from some sort of change. And others of you, this may be a call to do some journaling, do some self-awareness work, and start to kind of poke and prod at the edges of things. Lift up the rug where things have been swept under. And again, back to the serenity in this card. It is possible to go about this process in a way that is gentle. There will be internal conflicts that arise to be dealt with, but you can handle them masterfully as an internal diplomat, an internal negotiator, an internal mediator, and handle them, I'm hearing, like an adult from my friendly spirit guide here. You can be the adult mediating among your inner children when that is called for. Sometimes it's called for to really immerse yourself and become the inner child and feel those feelings, and that is also important and good. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's also good to master this ability to be the adult in your own situations. And if that, that phrasing is going to land differently for different people. If that phrasing lands as like abusive or belittling, then substitute your own phrasing for what it means to you to access your own power over situations and handle them maturely. But if it helps you to kind of chuckle a little and say, okay, we're going to be an adult about this, then use that too. Use whatever works. But also, in addition to this being a process where you can bring peace to conflicts internally and handle this process of owning your self-mastery, cultivating your self-mastery in a way that is peaceful rather than full of strife and striving, this is also a reminder that by owning this, by owning yourself, you can actually bring peace, bring a much, much greater sense of peace to your life and of being at peace with your life. You can gradually transform your life into one you are more at peace with. If there are aspects of your life that just don't feel aligned with who you are and what you want, what you truly want, this process of developing self-awareness and becoming aware of where you can make changes and actually taking the steps to enact those changes can create an astonishing amount of peace in your life and an astonishing sense of being at peace with yourself and with your life. The peace of knowing you've done all you could in certain situations, and the peace of knowing that you are living in a way that is aligned with your values, what you care about, to go back to that calling forth your caring, and what truly matters to you. And for some of you, there may be a literal study that you want to embark on, a literal field where you maybe don't have expertise yet, or maybe already do but want to advance your expertise. And this is also a sign for those of you who are already considering that, but have maybe written it off as out of your reach. This is a sign of encouragement. It may be slow, but slow and steady is far better than not at all. And do not take slow and steady, do not take small baby steps as weak in any way. This is coming directly again from that ocean god. That is actually fierce to take baby steps. He's actually giving me the image of an injured warrior, a wounded warrior, taking baby steps across the field of battle to where they can get medical attention. Taking steps to get help is fierce, and all of us need support with this journey. You are not alone, and whether it is professional help or the support of loved ones, taking those steps to get help is a critical part of this journey of self-mastery. This is not a message of hyper-independence at all. And tending to your wounds is fierce. Living to fight another day is fierce. And a warrior-like thing to do. And it's what leaders actually have to do. You have to put on your own oxygen mask first as a leader. It is not about self-sacrifice and martyrdom. These messages are all coming through here. And also in the pursuit of the goals that are perhaps longer term than putting on your oxygen mask or stopping the bleeding. Again, those are very important and must come first. And that is really being highlighted by my spirit guides strongly here. And also, when it comes to those longer term goals and achievements, baby steps toward them are valuable beyond measure. They're not weak. They are a sign of strength. They're a sign of commitment. And it is time for you to take some fierce baby steps in the direction of what you wish to commit yourself and your life force to. This third chakra is a center of life force, of prana, and some people consider it like the battery pack for the body. That particular visual doesn't really resonate with me personally, but it might resonate for some of you, or just convey the message I'm trying to get at there with how that is your center of personal power in some ways. And your sense of vitality and of life force is worth cultivating. It's worth pouring into. It's worth being nourished. Self-worth is also associated with the third chakra, the solar plexus chakra, Manipura in Sanskrit. Literally city of jewels, which some people correlate to the city of organs that are associated with it, and how we want to make those organs polished, cleansed, shine brightly. We want them to be nourished. But that life force, again, back to that health is wealth, and your personal power is your true wealth in this lifetime. Your literal life force is your greatest tool and your greatest weapon in whatever fights you face and in whatever endeavors you are embarking on. Your greatest tool is your own life force, and that is absolutely worth everything. It's worth investing in, it's worth pouring into, it's worth prioritizing. For some of you, this self-awareness work might look like starting to transmute the layers of shame that wrap around the sense of self-worth and obscure it. yeah, feeding that sense of life force is very, very important and something you're being called to. We'll see if any more messages come up from here. Oh, interesting. I don't think this tool here is necessarily actually a key, but it looks a little like a key to me, and so I just got that message also of like, yes, your life force, your personal power is the key that unlocks all other doors. And remember that the first step to accessing power is to be present with reality. And that is where that shadow work of facing any areas where there is denial could come in. Okay. I'm being drawn to read the guidebook for the... What am I being drawn to here? I am being drawn to this image here. This lynx or wildcat here. I thought I was being drawn to read the guidebook for this card, but I'm not so sure now. We'll see. But this wildcat is definitely correlating to our messages of personal power and of what we need to unlearn in order to access it. There are analogies used for learned helplessness, if you've ever heard that term, about how trigger warning for animal abuse here, but when elephants are abused, then they are typically chained as babies to something that they would a stake that they would easily be able to pull out of the ground as adults. But because they have spent many years shackled to that stake in the ground, they don't realize when they're adults that they can pull it out of the ground. And humans all over the world are living in that same state of remaining shackled to the things that we were powerless to as children, that we actually have absolutely no reason whatsoever to tolerate or put up with in our adult lives. Absolutely none. There's absolutely no reason to. There's absolutely no call to. It's completely unnecessary. And the lion, tiger, lynx, bear, whatever inside you is definitely calling to you, or for you to start pulling up some stakes in the ground and staking your own claim on your life, pulling your life force back from anything that may be draining it, cutting cords, patching leaks, and pouring it into yourself and what you truly actually wish to commit to. And those things will have a return on investment, especially with the Nine of Pentacles coming immediately after the Eight of Pentacles. Technically, it was actually even drawn first. The Nine of Pentacles is often a signifier of independent abundance, independent wealth, entrepreneurship, the ability to sustain yourself independently. There's a sense here of being able to protect yourself with the way that this guardian cat is alert and fierce while the individual behind them appears to be napping. And of course, there's all the abundance from the fruit and fields and pastures, as well as the grapes back there. So the return on investment when you are investing in these things, and when you patch up the leaks and create and restore health to the flow and the plumbing of your life force, will be great. Again, that access to personal power is your wealth. Okay. So I'm feeling called to read the description for the 21 Watch and Listen Carefully card. Interestingly, I'm seeing a connection between how alert this wildcat is and watch and listen carefully. This wildcat is very confident, quiet, self-assured, and watching and listening carefully. A lion does not need to tell anyone they're a lion is part of the message that comes through with that quiet confidence. Part of self-mastery is confidence that is not arrogant and doesn't need to boast, but also has no problem asserting its confidence and expertise, regardless of whether someone else is triggered and considers it arrogance. That is part of the leadership energy that you are being called to step into. Standing your ground, owning your ground, owning your power. Let's see what Watch and Listen Carefully has for us. Oh, I'm actually getting a message before I even get to the page of part of, okay, related to patching up the leaks on your life force and cutting cords, and related to standing your ground and owning your power. For some of you, especially in the workplace, I'm being told, but for some of you it may be in family or in other areas of personal life. I'm having the workplace highlighted for me especially, and then family second, and then for some of you it may be other areas of life. But I'm being told there may be detractors in your vicinity, naysayers, people who will be wily, I'm being told, about trying to undercut your sense of self-worth especially, and your sense of power, and who will, okay, this card is all about independence, and again, not hyper independence like we were talking about before, but being able to stand on your own 2 feet and know yourself. Actually, even if the whole world tells me no, I know I'm capable of this, and I know I'm worthy. So yes, there is a gentle, loving warning to some of you that there are detractors. Most of you probably already know who they are, but there is a reminder to watch and listen carefully in case more come in, or in case people that you've already cut off are trying to sneak back in, and to assess people carefully in case they are being particularly wily and sneaking under your radar. Evaluate the people in your life carefully, because there are some detractors who are liable to try to undercut your ability to not be dependent on them in a way that is not good for you. We all need each other as a human species and as a collective. There is no getting around that, no matter how much our hyper-individualistic society would like us to. There's absolutely no getting around that. And at the same time, your personal power and worth and capabilities absolutely do stand on their own 2 feet, do stand on their own. You do not need anyone else to validate that, to validate your power, worth, or reality. And there is some element of dependence that you are going to be called to clear away. Some element of toxic, unhealthy dependence that you're going to need to remove from your life in order to access your empowerment, your leadership capabilities, your fire for life, your zest for life, your sense of passion and aliveness and vitality, and your ability to make what you want come about, bring what you desire about. So the watch and listen carefully description does say there is a possibility that you need to be cautious and careful at the moment. For what looks like a good situation, a friendly person, or an offer too good to refuse is disguised. Wow, I'm actually amazed that this is coming, that this is so closely echoing what I channeled independently of the guidebook. So clearly this needs to be emphasized here for some of you. There is no need to fear, but take your time and do not make commitments until you have investigated all that you can and received good advice from a trusted source. So just to break away from the guidebook description for a second again, I really want to emphasize there's no need to fear, and take your time and do not make commitments until you have investigated and received good advice from a trusted source. So this is not a message to impulsively panic and freak out and start cutting people off or say no to things impulsively. This is a message to, if something seems too good to be true, question it. And no matter what an offer seems like, respond with, can I take a few days and get back to you? Can I take 24 to 48 hours and get back to you? At this moment in time, no matter what the offer is, put in some consideration first before you respond, even if it's just a few hours. And that type of pause and check-in is something that you can practice and get better and better at, and implement in all sorts of areas of life. pretty much all of them. So this Foxfire Kitsune Oracle guidebook does like to speak in terms of the metaphors from the multidimensional realm of the Kitsune, the fox spirit. So it says, Kitsune in the main can be trusted, and this particular Kitsune is coming to you to advise you to take care, hold back, and think before you act. Think does not mean to worry or to fret, but to rely upon wisdom rather than what you would like to be true. So again, this is going back to your only access to power, is in reality. No need to fret, no need to panic, no need to overthink. But do pause and get clarity and make sure you are grounded in reality rather than what you think should be or what you wish would be or how you hope it would come out, and make sure that you're in reality about a person or a situation rather than about that person or situation's potential. Do not bank on potential. So the guidebook continues, do not be naive, do not act rashly and foolishly, and examine carefully what is before you. You may find that you will be very glad that you hesitated and took stock, rather than simply going with what you wish. This can be challenging, for many of us are overcoming our own mistrust of the possibility. But in order to be a whole being, we must acknowledge that not all that takes place is in our best interests. In this situation, there is a possibility that there is a person who is acting in a way that will only benefit them without taking into consideration your needs. So be wary, think carefully, act wisely, and seek out advice that can be of assistance before coming to a decision. So I'm not going to repeat further what we've already said a couple times from what I channeled before that message and from within that message, but that message is highlighting for me okay, how to put this into the words. Yes, it's highlighting for me that part of taking ownership of yourself is taking ownership of your best interests and not sacrificing them for others. It is crucial in our interdependent lives to take other people's best interests into account as well. However, many of us, because of our conditioning, are set up internally and externally to put other people's best interests before our own, and sometimes to even continue doing that after they have demonstrated that they will not take our best interests into account. So do not feel like you are hurting someone if you prevent them from doing that. If you prevent someone from taking advantage of you and that has a negative consequence on them, that is not somehow your fault or your responsibility. It is your responsibility in a situation like that to protect yourself. And you can do that in a way that is both gentle and firm, both fierce and kind. So take heed and make sure to exercise caution and self-protection. I'm being guided to move on to interpreting the past lives card, number 7 now. Is there anything else you need to tell me before we do that, spirit guides? No, that's a pretty clear no. I feel like I'm fumbling sometimes in translating, so they're being very kind in reassuring me right now. Card 7, past lives. You long some days for gentility, propriety, older times when distance and conventions governed behavior. Within those laws and boundaries, you found freedom and expression even while there was a sense of restriction and oppression. There is a sense of how things once were, nostalgia and yearning for times long past when this card comes to visit you. The Victorian Kitsune is here to remind you of your own past lives, for she journeys through the realms of the human ones, finding the people who have forgotten their wisdom, and she reminds them of who they once were. She will make sense of the manners and the preferences you have, the desire for manners that were more genteel and refined, for roles that were more certain and sure, and for codes that, although restrictive and binding, gave us surety and a sense of peace. a sense of place, excuse me. The past is not the present, and you are not being reminded of your past in order to negate or escape where you are in this time, in this lifetime. But who we are is all we have been, and in memory there lies many a mystery which can enrich our lives. So know that your fascination with aspects of the past has meaning, and that you are being visited by the Victorian fox to remember a little more of who you once were in order to become more surely who you are destined to be. This would be a wonderful time to incorporate a little old world magic into your life. Take a step back, slow down, and revisit, savoring every moment. So there are several layers to the messages that are being highlighted from this guidebook for me and that are coming through with more depth and nuance from that for me. So bear with me, and please, Spirit, help me articulate this to the best of our ability. I paused after that first two sentences because that word, when distance and conventions governed behavior, the word governed, immediately, a very strong message for me came through, coming back to everything we've already discussed about be self-governing. There are some memes that some of you might have seen out there using the phrase become ungovernable. And those are some of my personal favorite memes. That there are these things like pictures of a golden retriever taking itself for a walk with its own leash handle in its mouth, and things like that. Become ungovernable. And the message here is to become self-governing. Again, back to the self-mastery. And there is a message here that some of you are experiencing a longing right now for quote-unquote simpler times. While it is true that there are demands upon our nervous system from technology that are not natural or healthy for us, there is a strong message here from the spirit guides that are with us that the peace and simplicity you seek, and especially the peace you seek, will not be found by going backwards. It is important also to simply accept and swallow the reality that we cannot go back. And even if we could, as we spoke about before, all of our access to power lies in the current reality and the present moment. So the changes and the peace we seek would still not be found there, even if we could. But more importantly, if there is some longing for simpler times, whether it's historically or whether it's for childhood, it's important to face that and kind of dig into it and go, okay, what is it that I'm really looking for here? Because the message here is very strongly that though you may feel it and perceive it as longing for a simpler time, for childhood, for someone else to tell you what to do, while those longings are valid, it's very important for you to mine those desires for information and act on that information instead of just accepting that longing as the status quo. Because there are actual changes you can make to your life based on that information that will yield results in the direction of the peace that you are seeking, which you will never find simply by, gazing back at the past through rose-colored glasses. Now, we spoke a little bit about protecting yourself from certain connections and also patching up leaks in your life force energy. And for some of you, this may be cords to the past and cords to people from your past. Or not necessarily even cords, but people from your past relationships, or ways of thinking about the past or from the past that do need to be shifted, cleaned up, and let go of. For example, many of us maintain connections with our family by joining them in upholding an illusion about how the past of the family unit was. Everyone's childhood has good and bad in it. And for some people, how they maintain an illusion of belonging with family, and I say for some people, but this is extremely common, how we maintain a sense of belonging is actually falsely by maintaining a narrative that is not true about like this rose-colored perfection of the innocence of our childhoods. And there's no need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Not everyone needs to cut off their family. Some people absolutely do and should not feel ashamed about that in any way, shape, or form. And you also don't need to throw out love for your childhood, love for your family, the things you love from childhood, your connection with your childhood, or your appreciation for it, your gratitude for it. Whatever it means to you, there's no need to throw out the baby with the bathwater, but there is, for some of you, a calling to examine and reflect and consider especially if you are feeling a longing to go back, to consider, wait a second, is this really something I would want to go back to even if I could? And the guidebook description referred to finding a sense of surety and a sense of place from old ways of being that were restrictive. So that is part of what harkened to me to the childhood part. For some of us, this might be harkening back to things like old gender roles or other ways of being in previous times. And whether it is a form of being governed by others and being told what to do and not having to worry about the complexity and the responsibility of making decisions for ourselves, or whether it is something else about this longing for the past, there is an importance to considering whether that sense of place that we found was real, and whether that sense of belonging we found was real. And by letting go of and clearing out the untruthful parts, you will actually be taking your first steps toward real belonging, a real sense of peace and place, and what you really can find certainty in. And of course, on the global scale, there is a lot of change, a lot of uncertainty. I would argue that that may have been the case in times that seemed simpler or seem more certain to us now that we're looking back at them as well. Hindsight is 2020. They didn't know how things were going to end when they were living those stories. So it's important not to be fooled by that illusion that we get simply from telling and hearing the story in the present. Now, what else was there to mine from this? Again, with not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, this card is, at its surface, the past lives card. If there are, for you, connections to the past that are coming up to be examined, you may find that there is both trauma and gifts within these things that are calling to you, whether it's a decade or a century or a time and place that you feel like you would have been more at home in, or something else completely a part of your childhood. There may be things that are calling up for you to release and therefore then change about your current life and eliminate from your current life. There may be things that are calling to you as gifts that you can move forward with. Maybe gifts in terms of these leadership and warrior-like aspects and capacities that we've been discussing. Perhaps it was in certain times of your life or in other lifetimes seemingly simpler or more easy for you to claim your power and stake your ground, and there's a part of yourself from the past that is coming up to say, hey, use me, lean on me, let's go. And just to wrap up what I was saying before about patching up energy leaks, I want to express to you that I see you and feel you in how hard it is if you are finding that there are people that there are relationships that you cannot carry forward with you. And it's not your fault. And we spoke about that with the Watch and Listen Carefully card, but there are sometimes people that it's terrifying to let go of. And even workplaces, like we talked about before, habits, ways of being that are terrifying to let go of, because that is where you are finding your sense of safety. And we do sometimes have to examine what happens a year from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now if I don't change this. Will this sense of safety, security, belonging have actually held up? Am I frustrated? Will that restlessness or frustration merely build if I keep this going? Do I feel like I'm living a lie or upholding an illusion? So what other messages do we have for this group, spirit guides? Okay, I'm being called to bring in a final message. So let's take a look at how we want to do that today. I'm being told that we don't need to pull any more cards, that the essential messages have already come through, but I feel like pulling a closing card just for closure, so I'm going to pull another energy oracle card for that. The final message that's coming through from my spirit guides, though, is you have a lot to offer, and question anything that makes you doubt that. And self-mastery and uncovering your self-worth, all of these things we've been talking about, taking responsibility for your life and making changes, these are all lifelong processes. There can be overnight changes within that lifelong process, so don't hesitate to make those changes once you're sure of them. Sometimes even though it's before you're ready, do not hesitate and do not flinch. But you have a lot to offer, and anything in your life and anyone in your life that is making you doubt that deserves to be questioned. And you have a lot of tools and spiritual guidance you can draw on to assist you in grounding yourself and letting go of the things that are at the root of self-doubt. Patience is the card that's coming through from the energy oracle deck, and so that is so funny in light of what I was just saying about it being a lifelong process. Patience. And I love that this clock here is positioned so similarly to the sacral chakra there. These figures are facing us head on, no hesitation, no flinching. So there's a reminder that being a warrior and being a leader do not require impulsivity. Like we were talking about with when you're making commitments, even if it's just a few minutes, it's always okay to tell someone, I'm not sure right now, can I get back to you? And that is a tool and a weapon that you should not hesitate to deploy, and that will get you a lot more mileage than you might realize. Let's see here. Patience, peaceful presence, letting go of desperation are the keywords here. And it says, this card shows a beautiful angel holding a clock in the stillness of winter. Her quiet, peaceful energy is telling you that it's time to release the old urgency and to look at things with a much clearer perspective. When this card is upright, it's telling you to relax and let go of the single-minded desperation that's been driving you. Don't try to force your will on only one option. When you think there's only one solution to satisfy your need or to make you happy, you are blocking many other potential solutions from coming your way. Let go of the anxiety and be flexible. Be patient, open, and creative. Choose to be peaceful in the present. The universe has more options than you may be aware of. Quiet your mind, broaden your perspective, and let them come through. I love this as a final message because forward-moving action, which we typically associate with leadership and getting things done and warrior energy, is always balanced by pauses to reflect and get clear on what the next right step is. And this message about pausing and opening your mind and clearing your perspective before you move forward does go very nicely along with what we were saying about pause before you make commitments, get clear. is there actually maybe a third option besides simply saying yes or no to someone if you aren't feeling quite right about either one? Can you get creative? If you are playing mediator with internal conflicts or external ones, can you get creative about solutions there? Can you lead the way by showing people that it's possible to be peaceful and powerful, quiet and confident, gentle and fierce at the same time, loving and taking no ish at the same time? Leading by example is a big, big theme of this reading, and I'm so grateful that you are showing up to do the work to become the leaders that you deserve and that we all need in these times. So thank you so much for being here, Pile 2, and I wish you all the best with this journey, and I look forward to seeing you in the next reading.